So Lviv, pressure from police on local activists is growing, and we have Oles Doniy, MP of the convocation, Oksana Kozlova, trade unions of Torpedo in Lviv, and Andriy Zakorchemnyi, head of Lviv Association of Free Trade Unions and Union of Solidarity Workers. The floor is yours, colleagues. Good morning, my name is Oksana Kozlova. I'm not only head of the three trade unions of one of the markets, but I'm also a representative of the Association of Free Trade Unions. And I came to Kiev. I was forced by serious events in Lviv. And as we found out, when we went around Kiev and when we spoke to different people, to MPs, and we understand that nobody knows about that problem, though that problem is not only in Lviv but everywhere where we have markets, big markets. They have that problem in Kharkiv and in some other cities. To be concrete, that is activists of free trade unions who protect business, who defend business. They are persecuted, and they went into the pocket of serious people, and they stopped money flows and opened the schemes that were on the markets. As a result, we got all activists of our trade unions in Lviv. There was a the courts started prosecution and police started prosecution, so there is a pressure through law enforcement bodies. That is what is interesting. They were trying to use Donetsk methods, and they burned our shops. They were shooting at our cars, and the police protected them, and then they started to go through courts. The last point was a picket. We had a picket and against illegal arrest in one of Lviv districts, and as a result, I lost my consciousness, and I was ambulance took me, and we heard what Dmitro Zahari, that's the main police, the head of the police, that we are all wrong, and we all be in a prison because we interfere into their work. Concrete cases, and haven't heard and seen them. We sent a demand, a request to the general prosecutor and the minister of Avak. We brought that yesterday and registered in certain agencies, and we show 13 facts of abuse, and we have documents about that. We have evidence of that abuse. And we asked to set up a working group that would investigate all of that. For the working group, it should include prosecutors and from the Ministry of Interior, lawyers, and they should investigate all the cases we have in our request. That plot, that silence around the problem we have, that shocks us. Mass media said they come to our meetings and take interviews, so they don't write about them. Jones came to after our pickets and our strikes, and they told that the administration of one or the other market paid them money for them not to show and not to write about us, and they told us. They told us how much that would cost to give that information about us. And I don't want to name our media. And there is a channel of Chestnych Novin, of Honest News, and we are already scared with all the accusations against us. So, but we have that evidence of such cases, so that plot to silence mass media. So we ask you not to be silent, because there could be Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and probably after holidays there will be a national event of entrepreneurs around against this persecution. Thank you very much. Good morning. Andriy Zakorchemnyi. I'm a chair of the trade unions in the region. My colleague she informs about all the infants in Lviv. police and prosecution they protect that. If the workers start defending their rights and trade union, we raise that issues. Prosecution and police come and they give the roof to finance these different projects on political level. And we touched the issue. We want to show the money. And there were a lot of people from old authorities and from new authorities, and there are a lot of people who are hiding in Lviv and of old ideology. They turn into red or blue. They support different forces, and there is order. And we came to Kiev to inform you, and if it will be easier in Lviv, and then it will be easy all over Ukraine. Everybody thinks that everything is fine in Lviv. There is a clear persecution of all the trade unions, and they start criminal charges, and so police, courts, and prosecutors are fighting against us. On the top officials, and they say they will put you into prison because you interfere and on such and such issues. And what do we? There is the law on police. There is a law on trade unions. There is nobody. They don't pay attention about that, so they do whatever they want, and they initiate a criminal case against trade unions. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Oksana Doniy, the former Ukrainian MP. I was invited to this briefing because a couple of days ago I was the participant of the Ukrainian Congress of Entrepreneurs that was held in Dnipropetrovsk, and that's where Madam Kozlova was speaking, and she was talking about the situation in Lviv markets. And in 2 days, she comes back home to her city, and there's information that we received. There's information about some pressures, about the pressure on her. In any corporate conflict that we have, first thing you need to do is to see what's going on. The task is not to say who's white or who's black. The task is to draw attention to the problem of not just markets. I believe there is the problem of pressure exercised on small businesses. In the situation when it comes to relations between small, medium, and large business, it's easier for the state to support large business. And that is the dead end. And Ukraine was there under the former presidents. But now, instead of supporting the most massive entrepreneurial businesses, small businesses, instead of that, the oligarchs are supported. And what Kozlova was talking about, what's happening in Lviv, it shows that when it comes to choosing between the small business and medium-sized business, we see that the authorities are supporting the medium-sized businesses. That's a abnormal situation. That means that in Ukraine, we will not have any internal resources to develop economy. I can tell you that just during the next last days, out of the small businessmen I know, several closed their businesses. Oh, you remember that there was this Kultra restaurant, and 3 days ago they had to close because they cannot pay the rent that the lessee was requesting. So if the businessman does not have transparent conditions for work, then businessmen will have to close their businesses. If in this situation, in this dispute between the not just trade union but small business and the large businesses, the authorities will be supporting the leadership of the markets, then that means that we will have problem with small businesses. The task of this briefing is to draw attention to this problem. Secondly, to draw attention to the abnormal situation with law enforcement bodies in Lviv. When we were in Dnipropetrovsk, almost every second entrepreneur of Dnipropetrovsk was saying that, the prosecutor who's infamous prosecutor and was the prosecutor in Dnipropetrovsk was transferred to Lviv. So why this person is now deciding on the destinies of citizens of Lviv region? Who made this decision? Who is backing him? And why now the business is being pressured in Lviv? Why Lviv entrepreneurs have to go to Kiev and to request media support, and they do not have cooperation with local authorities? All of these issues are of political nature, but our main task is to draw attention to that, so that there's normal first journalist, and then we hope the investigation made by the law enforcement bodies, and we hope that those who are guilty will be punished, and after that there will be normal relations established. When I read the documents and I read about some bribes which were collected, like money for Maidan, and no one knows how the money was used, then my question is, who will be punished for that? Do the small businessmen, small entrepreneurs, do they have the right to rent their places in the market openly, transparently? Because if I compare what is officially paid for rent in Lviv market, and then when we see what they have to pay unofficially, the difference is huge. Who's responsible for that? Why there's no proper media attention to that? Why local authorities are not paying attention to that? And why, just like in old times, small businesses have to go to the capital to try find the truth? That's a abnormal situation, and today's briefing is organized to draw attention. So one of the mechanisms of such support is if we see that neither the state nor local authorities can defend small business, the small business has to do it itself. There was a meeting in Dnipropetrovsk, and there was a powerful organization of self-protection of entrepreneurs in Dnipropetrovsk who organized the event, the meeting. They made the decision that they will be setting up the national organization of entrepreneurs, and that is to protect small and medium-sized business. And we invite all people who are ready to join this, to join it, so that we have free, competitive economy developing in the country, to protect not just own interests, but the interests of Ukrainian citizens. We hope that this will be one of the efficient mechanisms. If the authorities are not listening to what are the interests of the entrepreneurs, then we have to to exercise pressure by the national organization. I was trying to understand what is the reason of such pressure. Maybe you know what's the reason for that. The reason is the following. the shadow schemes in one of the markets in Lviv. The shadow scheme was collecting 500,000 hryvnias per day. But those who were collecting that money, they were paying only 6,000 for rent in a month. And now the trade union started talking about that, and we received what we received. I was given the paper with the suspicion, and I was beaten up during one of the meetings, but they say I'm accused in beating someone else, and Andriy is accused also in beating someone who he did not see that day. The people, we told people how not to pay all this money legally, and that is the revenge against us for that.
Questions?
А вот ваша идея какая основная?
What's your main point? You want the markets to belong to entrepreneurs, or are you fighting for the fair fees? Those markets that belong to cities, municipal property, we support the idea that they should should be returned back. Since 2012 to 2013, we organized for After-Maidan. There were representatives from all Ukraine, and we went from the east to the west, from the north to the south. We found through Ukraine only 2 markets that were legal, and that was a municipal authority. There were no schemes, no corruption. But when there is a problem with corruption, and there is a problem with everything else. So these are markets in the western Ukraine, in Uzhhorod and Mukachevo. Thank you. Questions? No. Thank you very much for coming and for telling us those stories from Lviv. If you have some news, come again. We'll be happy